Portland Trail Blazers did it again, my man. They go on the second of a back-to-back, and they beat the Indiana Pacers, which currently Indiana sits as the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. But the Blazers end up knocking off Indiana 112-89 for their 5th consecutive win and their 9th win in their last 10 games.
Yeah, the Indiana Pacers came in as one of the hotter teams in the NBA. They're the 4th in the Eastern Conference. I believe they're
4 straight wins, right?
4 straight wins, and I think they were 8-2 in their last 10. Yeah, because they're 7-3 in their last 10 now. So, one of the hotter teams in the league. Both teams coming off a back-to-back. The Utah to Portland back-to-back, not one of the worst ones in the league. It is if you're Indiana, Chicago, Cleveland, who has to drive or fly 45 minutes basically everywhere to play anyone. It's a little bit longer of a flight, but if you're Portland, Utah is one of your closest teams. So it's not like it's the most brutal back-to-back that exists in the league.
Well, plus you get an hour.
There you go.
Time travel.
That's how it works. You go through the wormhole, otherwise known as Utah. But the Blazers coming off an overtime win in which, Toumani Camara plays 46 minutes. D.A. plays 42 minutes. Ant and Jeremy both play 40 minutes. And you get stellar performances up and down, really from everyone. Toumani Camara, again, continues to be, and I mentioned this on the postgame last night, the question was, could he be or is he becoming the heart and soul? Like, he is the heart and soul.
I love him.
Toumani Camara is the heart and soul of the team right now.
I love him so much.
Everything about what he does, it's not just the defense and effort and intensity, it's that it's always up. And I very much dislike Dylan Brooks, like with the fiery passion of 1,000 Suns. But with the thing that I always give him credit for is that his work rate is always sky high. And it's so high that if you don't match that level of intensity, you stand out and you look suspect at all turns. And that's why when you see, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, Scoot Henderson or Shaedon Sharpe getting thrown on the bench, like when they were standing, why their defense looked so bad is because on one side of the court, you're seeing Toumani Camara make every rotation, go absolutely crazy, pick up a guy full court, and then you see this, lackadaisical effort and getting lost in the play.
Yeah.
And it stands out like a sore thumb. I think the other thing that kind of came out of last night is that DeAndre Ayton, despite foul trouble, despite not getting all of his touches, despite not being the guy, deferred last night in multiple ways. He stayed engaged, and he had a couple plays, he jumped a passing lane, got a steal, and took off and dunked. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him do that. Like, it was just like, wait, what? And then he gets underneath and gets 2 guys on him and then gets a little pump fake and does a little drop pass to Toumani Camara for a layup. And I'm like, oh, usually DA right there, that ball's going up no matter what. And then he picks up that 4th foul, right, or late in the second quarter. Real quick, that foul's a stupid call. It's never called a foul. It's almost always called a jump ball. It is a foul, but it's never called a foul. For those that are wondering, I'm talking about 2 guys dive for a loose ball. One of them ends up on top of the other, but they're both holding the ball. They usually just call it a tie-up. To give him his 4th foul right there is kind of weak, but whatever. It actually ends up setting up the story. Chauncey Billups in the postgame says he goes to DeAndre Ayton at halftime and says, look, I'm going to start Rob in the second half. I need to do that because I don't want you to have to play timid out there with 4 fouls. And Chauncey says that DA's like, no, I got you. Rob's got this. We're good. And DA didn't throw a fit. He was on the bench, waving the towel, pumping his fist, and then he came in and helped close the game out.
Wow.
Like the buy-in is just there. And I think, Dusty, so often we talk about being strong up the middle in football or soccer. Like, the Blazers are strong up the middle now with DeAndre Ayton and Toumani Camara, and it allows everything else to kind of flow off that. And their defense, I want to say over the last 8 games now, it's the number 1 the number 1 defense in the league, which is insane to think about, with the number 6 offense. And with a number 1 net rating now. It's just like, how did this happen? But it's their defense, it's their effort, it's their intensity, it's the stuff they're doing, and turning the Indiana Pacers into a bit of a joke as it turned into Lob City.
Well, yeah, and that lob from Ant to 2.
After breaking his defender's ankles.
Smokes. That was beautiful. I want to go back to Toumani Camara, though, really quick, because you mentioned it, 46 minutes the night before in that win against the Phoenix Suns where the Blazers go to overtime and they have to grind that one out, and he was a big reason for that. He comes back and, look, this is the thing about two, right, is he's not going to be a 20-point-a-night guy, right? But he was efficient, 5 of 7, scores 13 points. But on the defensive end of the floor, nothing that he did is going to really show up in the stat line. He had a block and a steal, right? Those show up. But it's not looking at Toumani Camara's stat line. Look at Tyrese Halliburton's stat line.
Big old bagel.
0 for 3 from the field, 0 points on the game, and he rendered him a facilitator. And that, to me, I think that speaks volumes to what Toumani Camara can do. It's not just doing that to Tyrese Halliburton, who, if we're being honest, Halliburton's numbers are not anywhere where they were prior to him popping his hamstring last year.
No.
Right? But
this is the one drawback of Hallie, is that sometimes he does step back as a scorer.
But there was no wiggle room in a night immediately following Toumani Camara playing 46 minutes and in exerting so much to get over the hump and beat the Phoenix Suns. I think that says a lot about that young man, and that is he's turning into more and more of an invaluable piece for this Blazers organization. I mean, you can't quantify what he has meant, because you mentioned it, right? This last 10 games, they're first in the NBA net rating, they're first in defense, and they're 6th in offense. And Rust, you said it like, it's only a 5-game winning streak, whatever, right? And that may say something more about the NBA not having an extended winning streak in there. And that's totally reasonable. It's not like they've won 10 games in a row, right? I get that.
And the pushback to this is that, I had a front office member text me, what do you think of the team right now? Like, what's kind of making this happen? And I was like, things are just clicking. There's a lot of that. And he goes, I think you're right, but there's the thing you always have to remember: young, athletic February basketball.
Yep, and they're going through it. I think right now, though, being first in net rating, first in defense, 6th in offense, that's when I say this is a really good stretch of basketball. Consistency is what all good teams have, and the Blazers are showing right now. This is a good litmus test of, all right, how consistent can it be and how long can you take it out? The reality is that the season is a roller coaster. I think that there are good and some things you can just kind of shrug off, things that you can take in and say, no, this is all really good stuff that you're seeing. Young developmental players finding a role, playing really well together, and connected basketball is, that's the kind of the buzzword that you hear from Chauncey Billups and the rest of the players. That connectedness is great to see. How long can they keep this thing going? And when it goes away, how quickly does it come back is kind of the big thing. You mentioned February basketball. Yeah, it's a tough time to play.
It is, and you get some veteran teams who are looking at 1-2-3 Cancun and some beat up bodies, and some dysfunctional teams have certainly come through. That it's been the easiest stretch of Portland's season so far as a strength of schedule point of view. So you can say that, but they're also beating up on teams. Like, that's the thing, is like they aren't just eking out wins. There is something here, and I've had a bunch of people like, well, you think they're a play-in team? No, I don't. No, they are not ready for that. Like, if you watch how the actual playoff teams have played them, like teams that you believe in that don't have some level of dysfunction going on at this time, i.e. Miami and Orlando, and you just sit there and you go, oh, yeah, that looks different. It's okay, and that's totally okay, because these are still growth. Like, it's still growth. There's still real gains. Like, I mean, you're playing Toumani Camara 36 minutes a night. Shaden and Scoot are both getting 27, 28 minutes a night, and you're seeing real positive impact. Like, even though Shaden didn't shoot well last night, I loved how aggressive he was. Yeah, like, he didn't hit threes, but he was 1 of 7 from 3, so he's 5 of 10 on twos.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
5 of 10 on twos, got 4 free throws. Like, he hits 2 threes, and he goes 3 of 7 last night. He's got 23 points on 17 shots, and his box score looks entirely different. Like, I don't necessarily I get the math of taking threes, but every time that dude drives, every time he drives, something positive seems to come out of it, and you see it more and more and more. Like, we can just do this after every single game. Denny did not have a great game again, and yet they run them off the floor. Like there's just been enough from. I mean, we got this far and we haven't even said a word about Ant. I thought Ant was fantastic last night.
Yeah, we will, because I think there's an aspect of this that is not getting enough credence because of this time of the year. You said young legs in February basketball. There's a lot of teams that are looking for that all-star break and wanting just to get there. But there's a whole nother level that is at play this time of year that you cannot ignore, and it seems like the Blazers are, because as Scoot Henderson said, they're together like white on rice. I don't know what that means, but I liked it. It's
fun.
We need to get to the other aspect that people might be forgetting. This is a good run. They're playing really good basketball right now. I know that's to the chagrin of a lot of fans. I want them to tank, but the reality of it is, if you wanted to watch your Portland Trailblazers play good basketball, they're doing it right now.
Working out pretty well.